Here's a brief history of the International. August 17, 2011, Dota 2 makes its debut at Gamescom in Cologne, Germany, as 16 of the best teams from around the world slugged it out to be crowned the first TI champions. 52 matches and 39 hours of gameplay later, Na'Vi became the first team to claim the title, defeating eHome thanks to their brutally fast, aggressive style, the very same style that would later help them become the only team in history to play in 3 TI Grand Finals. The pool of heroes at the first International was relatively small compared to what we have today, as only 46 heroes were available. Out of all these heroes, Vengeful Spirit was the most picked, as she was chosen in 33 of 52 games, with Windrunner close behind at 28. Interestingly, Na'Vi never selected either of the 2 most picked heroes throughout their title run. The honors for the most banned heroes go to Anti-Mage, Night Stalker, and Spectre. In the end, Na'Vi's victory and $1 million first place prize was an auspicious start for what is one of the most prestigious esports tournaments in the world.
eHome do take 250,000 in second place, but Na'Vi are the champions.
August 26, 2012. The International 2 marks the first TI held in Valve's home of Seattle, Washington. It was also the first International to have a qualifier stage, with 2 teams joining the invited 14. It also marked the introduction of now iconic trophy, the Aegis of Champions. As the International grew, so did the format. On top of the qualifiers, there was 156 total games and 87 hours of gameplay, which is more than 3 times the amount of games compared to the first TI. The meta had shifted drastically from the last International, with Leshrac and Venommancer taking over as the most played heroes with 91 and 84 picks respectively, while Lycan and Naga Siren were by far the most banned with 134 and 133 bans respectively. The International 2 is arguably best remembered for its epic clashes between Invictus Gaming and Na'Vi, first in the winners bracket semifinals and later in the grand finals. The grudge match started when Na'Vi knocked IG into the lower bracket, thanks in no small part to one of Dota's most famous moments, known only as the play.
The surge, he catches everyone. Oh, this could be a total disaster. Vacuum in, Ravage on everyone. The black hole as well. Light of Heaven turns it around. Ravage as well. Stolen by Deadly. Are you kidding me? They turn it around. 4 heroes dead.
5 heroes dead. Chuan trying to survive. Chuan's gonna go down.
In the end, IG would exact their revenge, fighting their way through the losers bracket to become the second International champions, denying Na'Vi their chance at consecutive titles. August 2nd, 2013. The International's growth continued with its 3rd iteration. For the first time, the Dota community was able to contribute to the prize pool by purchasing the in-game compendium. This not only increased the prize pool by roughly 80%, adding about $1.2 million, but the International 2013 set the record for the largest prize pool at the time, at over $2.8 million. Oh, how far we've come. TI3 was also the first International to feature a wildcard game, which increased the number of qualified teams from 2 to 3. This, in addition to the inclusion of best-of-3 series for the top 6 teams, further increased the total number of games to 162. In total, TI3 had 89 hours of Dota gameplay for fans to enjoy. Visage and Weaver were priority picks, as they were selected in 88 and 75 of the matches respectively, while at Outworld, Devour was the most banned hero, with Batrider close behind. The story of the event centered around Alliance, a Swedish team that featured a mix of veteran talent and pub stars. Alliance's grand final match against Na'Vi is Dota 2 Classic, and the peak of the rivalry between the 2 teams. Despite only dropping 1 game throughout the entire event, Alliance struggled against Na'Vi as the 5-game series went the distance. The Marathon series finally ended thanks to S4's heroics on Puck in a play that is now known as the $1 Million Dream Coil.
Right now, S4 is going to try to cancel as many as possible. He'll cancel 3. My God, Funnick's going to try to TP, but he's going to defend against everybody. Meanwhile, Loda working on the melee racks on the bot. Surrounding from all sides.
BKB, they won this round. They're gonna do it. The Kings of the North.
Alliance wins.
With that thrilling finish, Alliance would lift the Aegis as the 3rd international champions. July 8th, 2014. With the International's continued growth, a change of venue was in order. Benaroya Hall, which had previously hosted the main event, was switched out for the 17,000-seat Key Arena. TI4 also saw a more than 300% prize pool increase, with the community contributing over $9 million to bump up the pot to almost $11 million. In fact, the prize pool for the International 2014 was more than the sum of all previous internationals combined. Once again, the event received some tweaks. This was the first year prizes were given out beyond the top 8 teams, and the format was changed to a modified round-robin group stage and the smaller main event bracket in which every match was a best of 3. This increased the action to 172 total games and 125 hours of gameplay. Also, the field was more competitive and open to rising talent than ever before. With the addition of the 4-region qualifier plus the wildcard match, the number of invited teams were reduced to 11, but the qualifier spots increased to 5. The champions, Newbie, paved their way to victory with their deathball push strategy that highlighted the event's most popular pick, Shadow Shaman, while Razor took the honors as the second most popular selection across the board. Newbie won 11 of the 13 games in which they picked Shadow Shaman, good enough for an 85% win rate. TI4 marked the first time that Na'Vi failed to make the grand finals, as Newbie took down their fellow countrymen Vici Gaming to claim the purse as well as the Aegis. July 27, 2015. You guessed it, more games, more money, and more action than ever before. The International 2015. Once again, the public came through big, adding more than $16.5 million to the prize pool, with over $6.6 million being awarded to the winners, Evil Geniuses. For the first time, the last place teams received a small portion of the pot, but each team's 0.3% cut was still valued at over $55,000. A return to the best-of-2 group stage format meant even more games, totaling in at 176 games and 162 hours of gameplay. This edition of TI added a second wildcard spot, which meant that 6 teams would qualify for the event while 10 teams were invited, the most open field at the time. The fiery Lina was the most picked champion of the International 2015 with 93 selections, while Gyrocopter was only a few games behind at 91 picks. Leshrac claimed the honors of the most banned with 144 bans. For the first time, an American team won the International, as Evil Geniuses hoisted the Aegis after Universe's famous $6 million Echo Slam put the final nail in their 3-1 victory over the Chinese CDEC in the grand finals.
No hook shot.
They're all together. PPD, here comes the Ice Blast, ready for the dog! In from Universe! It's a disaster! CDEC! They're going to get wiped from the face of the earth apart from aggressive. He'll jump out, but the Wombo combo perfectly hits from Evil Geniuses.
Interestingly, EG are one of the most diverse teams to ever win the prize. They had both the oldest player and youngest player to win the International, with Fear being 27 at the time and his teammate Sumal was only 16 years old.
Congratulations! You're grand champions of TI5!
August 2nd, 2016. Although the overall format was very similar to TI5, this year's International was the first to feature more qualified teams than invited teams, with 10 teams coming through their respective regional qualifier or the wildcard, while only 6 were invited directly. TI6 was the most diverse Dota tournament of all time when it came to the pick ban phase, with 105 of the 110 total available heroes being selected across the group stage and main event. Only Bloodseeker, Leshrac, Lina, Treant Protector, and Visage were not selected at all. This TI, more than any other, was the story of upsets. Notably, tournament favorites OG took an early exit in the lower bracket. Fnatic's Shock Team Liquid and the massive underdogs Digital Chaos made a run all the way to the grand finals. However, Wings Gaming would not be denied by any of these teams. The young Chinese squad was dominant throughout the main event, claiming the title and the just over $9 million that goes with it. Although the final games of TI6 were just recently finished, it's safe to say that it was one of the best yet, with thrilling games, amazing storylines, and near flawless production. As the sun sets on the biggest Dota tournament to date, we must now begin to wonder, what will next year's TI bring? Who will hoist the Aegis? And who will fight for glory and victory?